In the middle of World War II, one man held the power to decide who would live and who would die. But why would a Nazi businessman risk everything to protect Jewish workers? How did he secretly deceive some of the most dangerous officers in the Third Reich? What was the mysterious list of names that saved more than 1,200 people? And how did a factory become a sanctuary during one of history's darkest crimes? The man behind that story was Oskar Schindler, and what he did during the Holocaust would change hundreds of lives forever. In 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland. Soon after, Oskar Schindler arrived in the city of Krakow. He was ambitious, charming, and eager to profit from the war. Schindler purchased a factory that produced enamelware for the German army. Jewish workers were cheap forced labor, and hiring them meant larger profits. At first, Schindler was not trying to save anyone. He was simply a businessman taking advantage of wartime opportunities. But outside the factory walls, something horrifying was happening. Entire Jewish communities were being rounded up and deported to camps. And one event would soon change the way Schindler saw everything. In 1943, the Nazis began the brutal liquidation of the Krakow ghetto. Soldiers stormed homes, dragging families into the streets. Gunshots echoed through the city. People were beaten, separated, and forced onto trains. Schindler witnessed the chaos and violence firsthand. For the first time, the reality of Nazi persecution was impossible to ignore. And something inside him shifted. But what could one businessman possibly do against a regime built on terror? Schindler began with the only power he had, his factory. Schindler started claiming his Jewish workers were essential to the German war effort. If they were valuable to the army, they could not be deported. To make this believable, he bribed Nazi officials with money, alcohol, and luxury goods. Every day was a dangerous game. If the Nazis suspected deception, both Schindler and his workers could be executed. But Schindler kept pushing further. Eventually, he created something that would become legendary. A document that determined who would live and who would be sent to the camps. It became known as Schindler's List. More than 1,200 Jewish men, women, and children were placed on that list. For them, it meant survival. For everyone else, the future was far more uncertain. Protecting those workers required constant sacrifice. Schindler spent almost his entire fortune bribing Nazi officers to keep his workers safe. He even convinced authorities to move his factory away from dangerous front lines. The workers were transferred to a new factory in occupied Czechoslovakia. There, Schindler deliberately sabotaged production. The factory produced almost no usable weapons for the German army. But it kept the workers alive. Each day the war continued meant another day they survived. And Schindler knew exactly what would happen if the Nazis discovered the truth. In 1945, Nazi Germany collapsed. The war in Europe finally ended. Because of Schindler's actions, more than 1,200 Jewish people survived. Many of their families would go on to rebuild their lives after the war. Schindler himself lost nearly everything. His fortune was gone. His businesses failed. But the people he saved never forgot what he had done. Decades later, Israel honored him as righteous among the nations at Yad Vashem. Today, thousands of people around the world exist because of those 1,200 lives saved. And their survival traces back to one man's decision to act. Oskar Schindler was not a soldier. He was not part of a grand resistance movement. He was simply someone who saw injustice and refused to look away. And sometimes, in the darkest chapters of history, that is enough to change the fate of hundreds of lives.